What a huge pain in the ass. First drill press I've ever purchased and ever put together. I had several problems. One of them is that I'm pretty weak. Um, this thing weighs 150 pounds, and the top portion has got to be probably 100 pounds. Uh, that's my guess, because the column weighs next to nothing. Platform's not too bad, and the base plate's not too bad. So, and this is thin metal. So what I thought about doing was using the cherry picker to lift it up here, and I don't have the cherry picker here, so engine hoist. I realized that's not going to work because it's going to crush this thing. So before I get to that, putting the base on was easy. A couple things I ran into a problem with. This will not go on unless this is taken off, which I knew either this had to come off or that had to come out of the bottom, and more than likely it was this guy. So I had to pound him each side, work him off all the way up the top. And then this guy has got a gear that comes out here. This is a flimsy little plastic handle. I don't like this. But there's a little worm gear or something in there. I don't know what the hell it would be called. And this track here has got to be put inside here before you put it onto this column, this shaft. And then you drive this thing down. And you don't want this binding, whatever this gear is, because then it'll make it flex out. Also, you don't want it binding because you want to be able to rotate this thing. It should be able to spin freely like that. So once I got that done, that was probably a 2-hour session. Plus the way this thing is sitting in the box, which the box is in here and the styrofoam's not here anymore, came in 2 boxes. And this went together fairly easy. It seems to be pretty true. This wobbles, but this is just visually. I think everything else. Well, let's go ahead and watch it. It seems to spin pretty true. That's at 1100. Can't really see it because it's 1100. I've got the there's the laser light right here. That thing's all greasy still. I probably won't clean that thing for a long time. We've got an LED light. See how bright? Well, it ain't gonna matter because I got the LED light on this thing. It has over 4 inches of travel, so you can go through easily a 4x4. So 4x4 I think is only 3.5 inches. So never have to worry about drilling through a 4x4 ever again. And this is this changes the speed. It'll slow it down, speed it up. And shows you all the speeds. So anyway, got that put together. I realized I was not going to be able to lift this, and I didn't want to wait for somebody. So what I did was I took the motor off, and that was these 4 nuts, which are 13 millimeter. And these are like exhaust bolts. They've got, I don't know what those are called. I need to learn that term. They're kind of gouged out so they bite in and they don't spin. I took all 4 of those off, and then once I was able to take that off, I was able to move the motor out and take the belt off. Then we've got the wires. You've got one big wire that runs all the way down here and into there, so I had to take off all 3 of these clamps. I had to take off this clamp here. I had to figure out which wire it was that was feeding up into there. And I had to take out these 4 screws, pop this thing out, and ended up cutting some wires that I didn't even need to. I looked at the wrong wire. I was tired. There's the black wire that goes right to the circuit board, which is probably for the laser. I don't know what it's for, but it goes right to the circuit board, and it's a little connector. And then there's a green ground that goes into the back, connected to the housing. And then there's a white common neutral that goes to two other whites, and then a black with a white gray stripe that has kind of ribs on it. And I ended up cutting 4 black wires apart, not realizing that I didn't even need that. So if you're going to do it this way, you don't need to cut or break apart the 4 black wires. So that made a little more work for me. And then the reverse was just putting it all back together. So haven't used it yet, and I probably won't. It's like 7:30 at night. I've done a lot today, and I've spent probably 4+ hours on this thing, and I'm spent. I'm good. I wish I would have shown the assembly process, but if you want to assemble this by yourself, and oh, it's this thing. I'm glad I did take this motor off, because I didn't want to risk it. This thing was not cheap, and if it would have not gone on, it's possible I could have been top heavy and tilted over, and oh man, I would have had to let it go, because otherwise I would have really hurt myself. But this did not go on easy. Even though this was already backed out, this was a tight fit. So it was starting to get heavy just with the motor off. And that motor's not light either. So, but it's together now, and this place is a mess. I've got the dust collector, I've got the table saw, I have the compound sliding miter saw, I have the Bosch router table, I have the Harbor Freight combination sander back there, belt sander and disc sander. I still have to pick up the 30th anniversary 7-inch Grizzly bandsaw. I have to buy a WEN, which is this brand here, oscillating spindle sander. I have to purchase the DeWalt DSW 735X, I think it is. That's a planer with the inboard and outboard tables, extra set of knives, and then a joiner. I can't remember what it is. It starts with a C, I think. I think it's a 6-inch or 8-inch joiner. I'd like to have an 8-inch. I think it's only 6 though. So, yeah. So, and then I got to get a filter for the top of that thing that filters out like up to a 0.5 micron, I think, all the way down to that. And I also have to build, and then I got to build all kinds of stuff. An outboard table for the table saw, a cyclone for the dust collector, an assembly table, and probably another table for the router to get that thing up off the ground, and then put stuff underneath there. So there's a whole ton left to do before I even get started.